Man, the idea of a Jon Jones fight seems awfully exciting right now. And Jon came out, tweeted, said, "Show me the money." What appeals to you most? Because it seems like that would be an amazing super fight.
If I'm Jon Jones and I'm home watching this fight, I start moving to 85.
You think that's a fight that you'd like to put together next? I mean, I know we don't matchmake, but that sure does seem exciting.
Listen, I could sit here all day and tell you, what show me the money mean? I tell you guys this all the time. If you can say you want to fight somebody, but do you really want to?
What is happening, good people? We're back with another video, and yes, we are speaking about Dana White yet again because he just makes it so easy to critique him and to speak about him. So in a recent Power Slap post-conference interview majiggy that Dana loves doing for Power Slap, he was asked the question of what he thought about Francis Ngannou's recent MMA win in Power Slap, my bad, in PFL. And instead of being a good human being and saying, listen, Francis did well, we didn't get along, but he did well, he was fighting for his son, God bless him, etc. Now ask me about UFC. Dana went on a 2-minute rant about how Francis is all about the money, and he left the UFC because of the money, but the UFC was offering him way more money than he was making, or he is making, since he left the UFC. But he left because of the money. And then Dana again started with this rhetoric that Francis was scared to fight Jones because he knew had he fought Jones, he was not going to get paid enough money or good money because he would not have leverage in contract negotiations, I'm assuming at this point. The excuses and the mental gymnastics that Dana White goes through to put Francis Ngannou down has to be studied. This man is obsessed with proving that Francis Ngannou was scared of Jones, was scared to fight Jon Jones, when for 3 years Jones sat out, and when Francis won that title, when he devastatingly knocked out Stipe Miocic, Dana White said in that press conference, if I am Jones, I stay retired, because Jones against that version of Francis is not making it. But because Francis did not re-sign, because Francis left the UFC, now Francis was scared to fight Jones. It is absolutely mentally irritating and mind-boggling the amount of shithousery that Dana White does when a fighter does not agree with him or when a fighter gets one up over him. In fact, it's not even the fact that Francis didn't agree with him, it's the fact that Francis got one over Dana White. Dana is salty for the mere fact that Francis was able to leave the UFC and become an even bigger star and get even bigger paychecks, which undermines what the UFC is all about. Hence, Dana White has to reiterate and tell people that Francis would have made more had he stayed at the UFC. Because you cannot admit that someone was able to find greener pastures outside of the UFC. No, the UFC is the Mecca. If you want to succeed, you stay in the UFC, you accept the terms we've given you, because you do not get these terms anywhere else. But alas, Francis left and was able to carve out a pathway that was beneficial for him, for his family, for his legacy. The Francis promotion exponentially increased as soon as he left the UFC. The man was around some of the most popular global figures. He was hanging around Mike Tyson. He was with Ronaldo. He was around so many popular figures. He was invited to some of the biggest soccer clubs, Manchester, Real Madrid. All these entities wanted Francis Ngannou to be a part of them, or wanted to work with Francis. While he was at the UFC, the highest form of promotion he got was Dana White calling him or saying that he punches as hard as a Ford Escort and offering him $600,000. That was what Francis was getting at the UFC. So Dana White cannot live with the fact that Francis left the UFC and went to do something great outside of the UFC. And that is the thing that pisses Dana White off. Hence, when he was in an interview with Shannon Sharpe and Shannon brought up Francis's deceased son, he could not even send his condolences. The man had to make it about Francis's ego, speak about Francis's supposed fear of Jon Jones. When just a few years ago, you were twerking for this man. You were saying Jones is scared of this man. Now all of a sudden, because he got one up over you, he is scared of Jones? You can't even have or show compassion as a human being to be like, you know what? You lost your son. I am sorry. We did not get along as people. You got one up over me, or in fact, you did some shit. But listen, I am sorry. Heck, Dana White even usually has more compliments for Oscar De La Hoya than Francis Ngannou. Francis has never shitted on the UFC since he's left. He's only spoken his truth. He's never even shitted on Dana White's character. The only time I've heard Francis bring up Dana White is when people tell him what Dana said about him. But Dana can't even show compassion towards Francis Ngannou. In an interview with Shannon Sharp, to be like, listen, I am truly sorry for Francis' loss. We didn't get along. I don't want to speak about that. Let's keep it moving. But when it's Oscar De La Hoya, the man who loves tarnishing Dana White's image or whatever you may call it, Dana will be like, listen, I used to be a fan of Oscar, but he's a piece of shit. He'll throw in a bit of the small amount of compliments here and there for Oscar De La Hoya. Either way, man, it is what it is. Dana seems to not have gotten over what Francis did to him, and he will forever be salty. But I'm glad that fans know that Dana is the one who's salty in this situation. Fans know that Francis made the right choice for his career and for his family and for his legacy. The man is set for life. The 3 fights he's had since he left the UFC, he would have to work sand mines for the UFC to make that money. Thanks for watching. Till the next one.